So today I want to walk through a modification that's relatively well known, I would say, which is the clutch lever mod for the YZ250 and 250X. Now this should apply for at least on all YZs from 99 through current. Before that, I'm not quite sure. And honestly, this should apply for most bikes in general. And in a nutshell, what we're going to do is we're going to shorten the distance from the pivot to where the end of the clutch cable sits. And what that does is it gives you on the lever a better mechanical advantage. So shortening that distance gives you more leverage and makes it feel lighter. It also moves the clutch cable less for the same amount of stroke in the clutch lever. And what that does is it increases your effective friction zone as it's concerned to your feel for the lever. So both those are huge positives for anyone that's riding trails. And I would say even on the track, it can be a definite advantage, especially riding a two-stroke, getting out of corners and whatnot. So this is a stock lever. This one happens to be Tusk. The basic premise of what we're going to do is we're going to measure from the center of this hole. We're going to move down from the existing drilled hole, and we're going to get it slightly closer. We're going to drill a hole there. Now, the tools that you're going to need to do this are not necessarily that involved. I have a few things laid out here. I'm going to use a drill press today, and my drill press is set up with a laser crosshair, which is nice to have. All that stuff is unnecessary. You can do this with a cordless drill, and you could do it with one drill bit, although I would recommend two. You're probably going to want a center drill because the stock measurement here from the pivot to this hole is 27 millimeters. The measurement we're going to today is 25.5. So you want to be accurate within, I'd say, half a millimeter. If you go too short, if you were to shorten this distance to a ridiculous degree, what would happen is it would never move the lever enough to get in and out of the friction zone. So don't think that you're going to make this 20 millimeters or 15 millimeters and have the lightest clutch in the world and super progressive and everything's going to be beautiful. There are limitations to this. This is an improvement. It's not going to reinvent the bike, but it was a really nice noticeable improvement for me and everyone else that's tried it. And the best part is it's totally free to do. The only other downside would be when you drill this hole, there's less metal here. These are probably slightly easier to snap, but in my experience, if you're going down enough to break a lever, you're going to break a lever. So that being said, I have made myself a template. This one's pretty well used, and we'll get to that, but I will also walk you through how to make one without this to start with. And then once you have one, it's really easy to trace a piece of paper over this, cut out the perimeter and have your hole, and then you have a basic template that you can kind of just set in here. Set in here and easily mark and drill the hole. So let's start walking through that. Hey guys, just a disclaimer. This whole video I've recorded saying that this is an 11/30 seconds drill bit. It's a 21/64. That's the actual one you need. The 5/16 can work, but this just gives you a little more wiggle room. So just keep that in mind when you're watching this video. What you need is a 21/64 drill bit, not 11/30 seconds. I apologize. All right, so first off, we got our lever right here. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you here roughly if I take the center of this hole to the center of the pivot to the center of the cable hole, you can see that is about 27 millimeters. Now, instead of using one of these, this is a nice Brown and Sharp like engineering metric ruler I got from my grandpa. If you don't have one of these, which most people don't, a digital caliper is what I think most people would probably use to measure this distance. So all we're going to do is we're going to move this down and we're going to measure out 25.5 millimeters below this hole. So we want it kind of in the center of the meat of this metal here. And the hole that we're going to drill will overlap this slightly. So there'll be an opening here, and we actually need that for the cable to go through. So you wouldn't want the hole to be kind of all on its own, but you also need to leave enough meat so that the hole is not like a half moon and the hole is more like a 3/4 moon, if that makes sense. So I'm going to measure out 25.5 millimeters, and I'll make a mark in the center, and then I'll come back. So right here, I just made my mark, as you can see. Now the next thing that I want to do is, the drill bit you're going to need is an 11/32. If you have a 5/8, a 5/8 will work, but the cable nut is pretty tough to slip into that hole. If you go up to 11/32, it's actually closer to the stock hole. Like you can see here, the stock hole is 11/32 or slightly larger. Like I say, 5/8 will work, but if you can, get an 11/32 drill bit. And I just want to kind of eyeball. I'm going to put the butt of the drill bit in the center, and it looks like my mark might be a little too far over, so I'm going to have to drill it a little bit closer, actually, because I want this small bit of overlap here. All right, so I got my mark made here. You're probably not going to be able to see it super well. It's just this dot on the end of that plus sign. That's my mark. The couple things I forgot to say, you're going to want a center punch and a hammer for this. This hole has to be super accurate. The best way to do that is to make your mark, punch it, and then ideally you want to have some kind of center drill. The size isn't super important, but you want to start that hole with a center drill, and then you can go straight up to your 11/32 bit or 5/8 bit if you really don't have it. If you just start with no punched hole and you're going to try and run the bit, it's going to walk. You need something to make it pretty precise. So get a center drill. They're not expensive. You only need one. Size isn't super important. So here we go. We got the hole punched here, as you can see. I'm going to put this in my drill press vise. If you don't have a drill press vise, you don't want to mar this up. I think a good solution would be take a C-clamp to a board, something like that. Secure this somehow. You don't want this moving when you're drilling it. This is kind of an odd shape. Just to show you here, I have this clamped in my drill press vise, punched, and we got the laser crosshairs lining it all up. I got the center drill chucked up here, and I'm about to give this thing a drill. So that's the center drill done. I'm really happy with the position. I'm going to throw the 11/32 bit in, and you're going to want to drill this 12 to 13 millimeters deep. So in freedom units, that's about 1/2 inch. So all I did is I took the Sharpie here, and I marked a line from the tip at about 12 millimeters. You want to go on the short side, and you can always go farther. Then just spin it up in the drill and then touch the Sharpie to that mark while it's spinning, and it'll give you a really nice solid line. And whether you're using a cordless drill or a drill press, once you have that line, it'll be pretty easy to not go farther than that. All right, so that is a beautifully clean hole. It's exactly how I wanted it to be. Probably like more 7/8 of the moon. And you can see the cable can come in through here, and it can pretty much go straight to that cable end. The depth is about perfect, and everything seems just how you want it. Another thing to note, sometimes depending on where you drill the hole, you see how there's two ridges. There's this top ridge and the lower ridge. depending on where you drill this hole and what lever you have, sometimes that lower ridge doesn't drill out. So I've just taken a Dremel in the past and with like a grinding wheel and just grinded that out of there so it's flat like this. I just don't want that thing cutting up the end of the cable or just having any issues. Just helps it slip in there a lot better. So this lever is done. Got a couple more to do, and I'll show you how easy it is to do once you have a template. So this basic template that I made, all it does is I made this out of gasket material. I mean, you could make it out of paper. It really doesn't matter. Cardboard might be a little too thick. So I just made it the same profile as the outside of the lever. And all I do is I stick the drill bit in the end and then pivot it against this stop that's on all the levers. And then as you can see, I drilled this one without a template and it's nearly perfect. So let me grab, this is a nice new tusk lever, undrilled, and here's them side by side. So this is a 9/32 drill bit, which fits this pivot hole very easily, and it just is a nice way to make sure that you're getting the same hole in the same spot every time. So line that up there, butt it up to this raised edge. As you can see, there's that raised edge there. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to color that whole hole in. So now I have a perfect circle. And then what I'm going to do is take this out, and I'm going to take my Scribe here, and I'm going to grab a straight edge and I'm just going to draw crosshairs, and that's where I'm going to punch. So once you make this template, it's very easy to make these again. All you got to do is stick the template over, draw the circle, cross them, punch them, center drill them, actual drill them. Okay, I got last two levers here. I got them marked, we got them scribed, and we got them punched. I'm going to go drill these. So these couple I drilled, you got this one here. We got a little extra metal left over, and then this one here, I drilled the hole kind of wide. You can see the center still got drilled out, so that's where I just take the Dremel and clean that up a little bit. And same with this one, and it'll give the cable plenty of room to pass through. Then maybe clean it up with a jeweler's file, and you should be good to go.